Welcome back, and joining me now is Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. Senator Kelly, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Good to be on. Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you back after a really significant week, and I do want to start with the National Guard shooting. You, of course, served in uniform. You know firsthand the impact, the devastation of gun violence. You just heard Secretary Noem defend President Trump's decision to, quote, permanently pause migration from all third world countries. What is your response to how President Trump is handling this?
Well, let me start by saying what happened to the two guardsmen, Andrew Wolf, Sarah Beckstrom, horrific. And it shouldn't happen. And I'm praying for him and for her family. It was a horrible, horrible thing, and there needs to be an investigation and accountability. But when I heard the secretary say that they're going to pause immigration from third world countries, I mean, I take that as a message that they don't want brown people coming to the United States. And I find that disturbing. We are a country that has always welcomed individuals that are struggling, that are fleeing famine and violence. And it would be a fundamental change to the fabric of our nation to change that.
You know, you say you think that they are targeting people who are brown. What do you think the administration means with this term remigration? You just heard me talk to the Homeland Security Secretary about it, ask her to define it. How do you see that term?
Well, that means just kicking people out. You know, they just want to deport individuals. I have folks that I've visited in ICE detention centers in Arizona. One has a deportation order. She came to the country 20 years ago, fleeing communist China. She's a business owner. She has 70 employees. Her mom's a U.S. citizen. Her child's a U.S. citizen. Her sister's a U.S. citizen. Husband's a U.S. citizen. And this administration wants to kick her out. She's a job creator. It doesn't help us to kick somebody like Kelly Yu from Phoenix out of the country. It's just ridiculous. And, you know, that's the strategy they're going to take. They're trying to, you know, round up people. She talked a lot about kicking out, you know, criminals. Kick criminals out. Kick gang members, drug dealers. We should deport them. But that's actually a small percentage of the people they are going after.
Well, let me ask you, because you heard my back and forth with the Homeland Security Secretary about the vetting process. The alleged shooter is said to have arrived here in the United States in 2021 during America's withdrawal from Afghanistan. President Trump blaming former President Biden, saying that chaotic withdrawal led directly to this moment. Do you believe former President Biden's actions bear any responsibility?
Well, this administration, they're going to blame Joe Biden on everything. I mean, it is almost getting comical, you know, at this point. It sounds like there was some vetting done in the last administration. It sounds like they did not do enough vetting before they gave him his asylum claim. She talked about changing the vetting process. I think that's a good idea. I mean, when you see an issue and a process that isn't quite working, especially after we go through an investigation on this individual, if there are things that need to be changed, we should change them. I used to have a boss, a commanding officer in the Navy, that would tell me that if you're not changing things, they're getting worse. Process improvement is important.
Let me ask you about the other big story this week. You joined 5 other Democratic lawmakers in a video urging service members to disobey orders they believe are illegal. We're seeing some of that video play, Senator, right now. In response, the Pentagon has opened an investigation into military laws. It says that you may have violated. The FBI is reportedly launching its own probe. Now, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has personally threatened to recall you to active duty so that you can be court-martialed. Secretary Hegseth adding your video, quote, intentionally undercut good order and discipline. Did it?
I said something very simple and non-controversial. And Donald Trump said I should be hanged, executed, prosecuted. Pete Hegseth said I should be court-martialed. I mean, how ridiculous is this? We say follow the law, and this is their response. These are not serious people. And Kristen, this is meant to just intimidate us. We're sticking up for the Constitution here and the rule of law, and they're saying these folks should be executed for doing that. I mean, Pete Hegseth is not a serious person. He's unqualified for this job. Should have never been put in this job. I did not vote for him. I think he is the least qualified Secretary of Defense in the history of our country by far. And you can see this by how he has done this job over the last 6 months. And this president thinks he can bully and intimidate people, and he's not going to stop me from speaking out and holding him accountable for the things that he does that are wrong and unlawful.
Do you plan to cooperate with any investigation, including a potential court-martial?
Well, just like saying that we should be hanged, executed, that's about intimidation. Sending the FBI after us, that's further intimidation. I'll follow the law, but I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm not going to be bullied, especially by Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth.
Let me ask you about the substance of this video and your message in it. What specific orders do you believe President Trump made that you consider unlawful?
Well, so this is looking forward, but let me give you a pass, an outline of things that he has said. In 2016, he said that the U.S. military will follow his illegal orders. He said something on a debate stage and was reminded that would be illegal. And he said the military will not refuse his orders, regardless of whether they're legal or not. He also talked about shooting protesters in the legs. How un-American, how unconstitutional is that? Fortunately, there was a Secretary of Defense that has stopped this. He's also talked about sending troops into U.S. cities to use those cities and people for training. I mean, we're concerned because of this president with this Secretary of Defense that we could have a significant problem. So this was a simple message, follow the law, and it was looking forward.
Well, and let me talk to you about some of what's happening right now. The Washington Post reporting that Secretary Hegseth gave an order to kill everybody on one of those suspected drug boats during the first strike in September. Are you calling for U.S. service members to actively disobey orders like those?
Well, if orders are illegal, not only do they not have to follow them, they are legally required not to follow them.
Do you think that constitutes an illegal order?
I think there needs to be an investigation, and I hope that the reporting is not accurate. I care so much about the United States Navy and those service members. This was an operation involving the most professional members of the military, U.S. Navy SEALs, who I revere. I hope and pray that this is not true. But there needs to be an investigation by the Inspector General. Pete Hegseth fired many of the inspectors general in DOD. But who's ever left needs to investigate it. We're going to investigate it. I sit on the Armed Services Committee. We're going to have an investigation. We're going to have a public hearing. We're going to put these folks under oath, and we're going to find out what happened, and then there needs to be accountability.
Let me ask you, you referenced this. You were a pilot yourself. You flew 39 combat missions over Iraq and Kuwait. You're asking officers in the field to make really tough calls about the legality of what they are being asked to do. So I want to put the question to you. If you were still in uniform, if you received an order to strike suspected drug boats overseas and kill everybody on board, would you refuse that order in real time?
Well, let me start by saying I've sunk 2 boats, 2 ships. I sunk an OSA-2 missile patrol boat in Kuwait Harbor. I sunk a Polnokny troop carrier in the Persian Gulf during the first Gulf War. Never once did I question whether those orders were legal or illegal. People can tell the difference, should be able to tell the difference between something that is unlawful and something that is lawful. And if I was ever given an unlawful order, I would refuse. If you have time, you can certainly go to the judge, advocate generals, the lawyers, and have a discussion about it. If you don't have time, you just say simply, I'm not going to do that. That's against the law.
It puts a lot of burden on the troops to make a decision in real time.
It puts a tremendous amount of burden on officers in the military, but that is their responsibility. And they can figure out, a reasonable person can tell something that is legal and something that is illegal.
So would you refuse these specific orders to strike drug boats if you were still in uniform?
Well, the difference between the initial strike and what is being reported, as a second strike, and those things are different. I think this administration has tied themselves in knots, the explanations that we have received on how this is all legal. And I was saying weeks ago, my concern is with the service members, that we're going to put these individuals in a really, really tough decision, in a tough place. And, you know, they may find out, you know, down the road that they did something that is illegal. It is not fair to them. That's why we need presidents and Secretary of Defense who understand the Constitution, who understand the rule of law, and have more respect for the Constitution and the country and service members than the whims of a president.
All right, Senator Mark Kelly, thank you so much for being here in person. We really appreciate it.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.